Hey guys! Tonight we will see what hygiene was like in ancient Persia. Before that, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comment where you tuning from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who is joining us from around the world. Tonight, let your mind drift gently back more than 2,000 years to the quiet landscapes of ancient Persia. There are no heroes to follow and no battles to witness, only peaceful courtyards, flowing water, cool stone, and the slow rhythm of a civilization that valued cleanliness, order, and calm. This is a gentle journey through the everyday world of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, beginning in the stillness before sunrise, when the empire is at its most tranquil. Awakening in ancient Persia. Before sunrise in the Persian Empire. Before the first light reaches the stone terraces of ancient Persia, the world is wonderfully still. The sky is deep blue, almost black, and filled with stars that seem brighter than they do in the modern world. The air is cool and gentle, carrying the faint scent of dry earth, cypress trees, and distant mountain winds. Nothing is rushed. Nothing asks for your attention. The empire sleeps beneath a vast quiet sky, and the morning has not yet fully arrived. Imagine the Achaemenid Persian Empire stretching across an immense landscape of mountains, valleys, deserts, gardens, and rivers. Somewhere within that vastness stands Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire, resting peacefully in the final moments before dawn. The great columns are still wrapped in shadow, the carved reliefs are barely visible, and the broad stone stairways remain cool from the night air. This is the calmest hour of the Persian day. The silence is not empty. It is filled with small sounds that become noticeable only when the world is quiet enough to hear them. A light breeze moves through the leaves of tall cypress trees. Somewhere nearby, water flows gently through a narrow stone channel. A night bird gives one final call before morning begins. Across ancient Persia, homes are slowly preparing for the day, not with noise or urgency, but with patient and peaceful movements. Courtyards are gently swept. Clay basins are arranged. Water jars are checked and quietly filled where needed. These simple tasks are performed while the air is still cool, before the warmth of the Persian sun begins to spread across the land. Imagine a courtyard enclosed by pale stone walls. In the center rests a small rectangular pool of water, perfectly still, reflecting the last bright stars above. Large ceramic jars stand beside the walls, their surfaces cool to the touch. Woven mats lie neatly arranged. A few potted herbs release a faint fragrance into the morning air. The first movement of the day is almost silent. A reed broom brushes softly across the stone floor. The sound is slow and rhythmic, like the gentle sweep of wind across dry grass. A thin layer of dust, gathered during the night, is carefully removed from the courtyard stones. In the dry landscapes of ancient Persia, dust was always present, carried by soft desert winds and settled quietly on doorways, walkways, and woven textiles. Because of this, cleaning was not considered a burden. It was simply part of the peaceful rhythm of daily life. As the eastern horizon grows slightly lighter, the colors of the world begin to change. The mountains become soft shades of blue and gray. The cypress trees deepen into rich green silhouettes. The stone walls of Persepolis slowly emerge from darkness, taking on a pale golden hue that seems to glow gently rather than shine brightly. Water remains at the center of everything. In ancient Persia, water was precious and deeply respected. It arrived through wells, springs, rivers, and remarkable underground channels known as qanats, which carried cool groundwater across long distances beneath the earth. These hidden waterways allowed gardens and settlements to flourish even in regions that appeared dry and quiet. Listen carefully. The water does not rush. It moves slowly through narrow channels, touching stone, filling basins, and reflecting the first light of dawn. Its sound is soft and continuous, one of the most calming sounds in the Persian morning. A clay vessel is lifted. Water is poured gently into a shallow basin. The quiet splash echoes softly through the courtyard before fading once again into silence. These are the sounds that begin the day across the empire. The morning remains wonderfully cool. The strong heat of midday is still far away, and for a little while longer the entire landscape feels fresh and peaceful. The scent of damp earth rises wherever water has touched the ground. Small leaves shimmer with faint traces of moisture. The air feels clean and clear, carrying the fragrance of herbs, cedar wood, and distant gardens. Ancient Persian homes were often built around open courtyards because these spaces welcomed light, air, and water into daily life. They were places of washing, cooking, resting, and quiet conversation. At this early hour, however, they belong almost entirely to stillness. The first birds begin to sing. A dove crosses the brightening sky. The stars slowly fade one by one. The carved reliefs of Persepolis become easier to see, revealing figures dressed in flowing robes with carefully groomed hair and beards. Even in stone, the Persian love of order and refinement is visible. Cleanliness and careful appearance were admired throughout the empire, and the morning routines reflected that quiet appreciation for harmony. As dawn continues, the light spreads gently across terraces, gardens, and pathways. The markets remain closed. The roads remain nearly empty. The great halls are still silent. Everything feels prepared rather than busy. This peaceful preparation is one of the most beautiful aspects of ancient Persian life. Before work begins, before travel begins, before trade and conversation fill the streets, there is this calm hour devoted to order, cleanliness, and the simple care of one's surroundings. No dramatic events disturb the morning. No loud voices break the silence. Only water, light, stone, and air remain gently present. And so the story of hygiene in ancient Persia begins not with elaborate perfumes or grand royal rituals, but with something much quieter: the soft sound of a broom across cool stone, the gentle movement of water through a courtyard basin, and the slow awakening of a civilization that believed a peaceful day should begin with a clean and ordered world. Remain there for a little while longer. Feel the cool morning air. Listen to the flowing water. Watch the first sunlight spread across the stones of ancient Persia. There is nowhere else to be, and no need to hurry. The day is only beginning. The first washing of the day. The first light of morning has now spread gently across the Persian landscape. The stars have faded into the brightening sky, and the cool blue of night has become a soft wash of gold and pale silver. The air remains fresh, carrying the quiet scent of water, earth, and distant gardens. The great stone terraces of Persepolis glow gently in the early sunlight, while villages, orchards, and courtyards across the empire awaken without haste. This is the hour when the first washing of the day begins. In ancient Persia, cleanliness was woven into the rhythm of morning. Before food was prepared, before work began in the fields or workshops, and before long journeys started along the royal roads, water was brought forward with quiet care. The beginning of the day was often accompanied by the simple act of washing the hands, the face, and the feet, allowing the coolness of fresh water to replace the stillness of the night. Imagine a stone basin resting in the shade of a courtyard wall. Its water is clear and cool, having been drawn from a well, a spring, or a carefully maintained channel before the heat of the day could warm it. The surface is perfectly calm, reflecting a small square of morning sky. Beside it stands a smooth clay vessel, a folded linen cloth, and a small bowl containing natural cleansing materials gathered from the surrounding landscape. The washing begins slowly. Water is poured gently from the vessel into waiting hands. The sound is soft and unhurried. A few drops fall onto the stone below, disappearing into the warmth that will gradually arrive later in the morning. There is no sense of urgency. The movements are careful, almost meditative, as if the day is being welcomed rather than entered. The face is rinsed with cool water. Hands are washed thoroughly. Feet are cleansed from the dust that settled during the night. The refreshing sensation of cool water in the morning air is one of the simplest pleasures imaginable. In a land where the afternoon sun could become intense, these early hours offered a moment of quiet comfort before the world grew warm. Ancient Persian hygiene relied largely on materials provided by nature. Fine clay could be mixed with water to help remove dust and oil from the skin. Ash from clean burning wood, when carefully prepared, served as a gentle cleansing agent. Crushed herbs and aromatic plants were sometimes added to water, releasing faint fragrances that lingered softly in the air. Imagine the subtle scent of mint, wild thyme, or other Persian herbs carried on the morning breeze. Nothing is overpowering. The fragrances are delicate and natural, blending with the smell of damp stone, fresh water, and sunlit earth. The washing itself is quiet. Water is never thrown carelessly. It is poured thoughtfully, used carefully, and respected deeply. This careful use of water reflects the Persian understanding of the landscape around them. Much of the Iranian plateau is dry for long periods of the year, and fresh water required planning, engineering, and continual maintenance. Wells were protected, channels were cleaned, and underground qanats carried precious groundwater across great distances beneath the earth. Because water was valuable, cleanliness was achieved not through wastefulness, but through thoughtful routine. A small amount of water, used attentively, could refresh the body remarkably well. As the morning light grows warmer, courtyards become brighter. Sunlight begins to reach the upper walls first, then gradually descends across the stone floor. The small pool at the center of the courtyard reflects shimmering patterns onto nearby surfaces. Birds move among the cypress trees, and the sound of flowing water continues quietly in the background. In Persian homes, washing was often connected with preparation. Clean hands would soon touch bread, fruit, grain, and cooking vessels. Clean feet would step across woven rugs and polished thresholds. Clean faces would greet neighbors, merchants, travelers, and guests. The morning washing was therefore both practical and symbolic, a gentle transition from the stillness of sleep into the order of the new day. Imagine walking slowly through a Persian garden after washing. The air feels cooler against freshly cleansed skin. The leaves of pomegranate trees glisten in the sunlight. Small flowers release their fragrance more clearly now that the warmth is increasing. A narrow channel of water moves quietly through the garden, feeding roots and reflecting patches of blue sky between the branches. The entire landscape seems unusually fresh. One of the remarkable qualities of ancient Persian culture was the close relationship between water, gardens, and cleanliness. Persian gardens were designed with careful attention to flowing water, shade, symmetry, and calm beauty. Channels divided garden spaces into balanced sections, while pools reflected trees, flowers, and the changing sky above. To wash near a garden was to experience water not merely as a necessity, but as part of a peaceful environment. The gentle sound of flowing water accompanied daily life. The coolness of shaded courtyards softened the morning heat. The fragrance of herbs, blossoms, and trees mingled with the clean scent of fresh water. As the sun climbs a little higher, the first warmth begins to touch the stones. The coolness of dawn slowly gives way to a comfortable early morning warmth. Shadows become shorter, and the city of Persepolis gradually awakens. Bakers prepare ovens. Gardeners tend irrigation channels. Artisans begin arranging tools and materials. Yet the atmosphere remains calm. The day is beginning gradually, without noise or urgency. This peaceful beginning reflects a deeper Persian appreciation for order and balance. Ancient Persian society was highly organized, from its roads and administrative systems to its gardens and waterworks. Cleanliness belonged naturally within that sense of careful arrangement. A clean courtyard, a washed vessel, a fresh garment, and a prepared basin all expressed the same quiet idea that harmony could be created through small daily acts. The morning washing is now complete. The basin is still. The remaining water rests quietly in its smooth stone vessel. A linen cloth dries gently in the sunlight. The courtyard has become bright, clean, and peaceful. The birds continue their soft morning songs. The water channels continue their gentle flow. The fragrance of earth and herbs lingers in the warming air. Nothing dramatic has happened. And that is precisely what makes this moment so restful. The first washing of the day in ancient Persia was not a grand ceremony. It was a quiet habit repeated across the empire, from modest village homes to the great estates surrounding Persepolis. It was a moment of cool water, careful movement, and gentle preparation before the world became busy. For a little longer, remain in that peaceful courtyard. Feel the warmth of the early Persian sun. Listen to the soft sound of flowing water. Breathe in the scent of fresh herbs and damp stone. The morning has fully arrived, and ancient Persia begins another calm and orderly day. Water, stone, and the Persian home. Courtyards of quiet cleanliness. Morning has now fully arrived across the Persian Empire. The first golden light has spread across the stone terraces of Persepolis, across the villages that rest among orchards and fields, and across the quiet homes built from sun-warmed brick and pale stone. The coolness of dawn still lingers in shaded places, and the day has not yet reached the heat that will come later. Everything feels calm, balanced, and gently illuminated. In ancient Persia, the home was often designed around a courtyard, an open space that welcomed light, air, water, and silence into everyday life. From the outside, many houses appeared simple and enclosed, with plain walls that protected the interior from dust, wind, and heat. But once inside, the atmosphere changed completely. The courtyard was a place of quiet order. Imagine stepping through a modest doorway and entering a peaceful open space surrounded by shaded rooms. The sounds of the street fade behind thick walls. Before you lies a rectangular courtyard paved with smooth stone or carefully packed earth. In its center rests a shallow basin of clear water, reflecting the bright morning sky. A few cypress trees stand in stillness, their dark green branches rising gracefully toward the light. Nothing here is crowded. Nothing is unnecessary. The space feels carefully arranged, as though every object has been placed with patience and intention. A clay water jar rests beside a wall. A folded linen cloth lies on a low stone bench. A woven basket holds dried herbs gathered from nearby hills. The air carries a faint fragrance of cedar wood, fresh water, and sunlit earth. This quiet arrangement was not only beautiful. It was practical. The courtyard allowed fresh air to circulate through the house, cooling the surrounding rooms during warm weather. Light entered gently throughout the day, and water remained close at hand for washing, cooking, and daily household care. Water was never taken for granted. Across much of ancient Persia, obtaining fresh water required careful planning. Wells had to be maintained. Springs were protected. Canals and underground qanats carried water across long distances through extraordinary engineering. Because water arrived through effort and skill, it was treated with respect. Imagine a large ceramic jar filled with cool water drawn before sunrise. The outside of the vessel feels slightly damp where the coolness meets the warming morning air. The water inside remains clear and refreshing. A smaller clay pitcher rests beside it, used to pour water gently into basins for washing. The sound of water being poured is remarkably soothing. A soft stream falls into stone. Tiny ripples spread across the surface. Then stillness returns once more. These quiet sounds would have been familiar across the Persian world every morning. In many homes, cleaning began with the spaces themselves before attention turned to the body. Courtyard floors were swept carefully to remove fine dust carried by the night breeze. Stone thresholds were wiped clean. Basins were rinsed with fresh water. Clay vessels used for drinking and food preparation were washed and left to dry in the morning sunlight. Imagine the gentle movement of a reed broom across smooth stone. The motion is slow and rhythmic. Dust lifts softly, then disappears. No harsh noises interrupt the morning. Only the quiet repetition of simple work performed with patience. The Persian appreciation for order can be seen even in these ordinary routines. Archaeological discoveries and administrative records from the Achaemenid Empire suggest a civilization deeply interested in organization, maintenance, and careful management. Gardens were irrigated with precision. Water systems were inspected. Storage areas were recorded and maintained. Cleanliness naturally belonged within that larger sense of harmony. As the sun climbs higher, patches of light begin moving across the courtyard floor. The basin in the center reflects shimmering patterns onto nearby walls. The cypress trees cast long, cool shadows that slowly shift with the passing morning. A gentle breeze enters through the open space above, carrying the scent of herbs and flowering plants from nearby gardens. Imagine sitting quietly beside the water basin. The stone beneath you remains cool. The air is comfortable. A dove lands briefly near the edge of the pool, drinks a few small sips, and then flies away without disturbing the calm. The water becomes still again. Persian homes often included spaces specifically suited for washing and household cleanliness. While they were not grand bathhouses like those later built by the Romans, they were thoughtfully arranged. Basins, jars, channels, and drainage areas allowed water to be used efficiently and cleanly. The architecture itself supported hygiene through shade, airflow, and careful access to water. In a dry climate, keeping a home clean required regular attention. Dust could settle quickly on floors, textiles, and wooden furniture. Woven rugs were gently shaken and aired. Linen cloths were washed and dried in sunlight. Storage jars were inspected and kept clean to protect water and food from contamination. These routines were not performed with anxiety or perfectionism. They were simply part of the natural rhythm of living. Imagine sunlight filtering through the leaves of a small pomegranate tree growing in the corner of the courtyard. Its fruit is still green and unripe. The leaves shimmer softly whenever the breeze passes through. Nearby, a narrow channel carries water quietly from one part of the courtyard to another before disappearing into the garden beyond. The continuous sound of flowing water creates a feeling of peace that seems to slow time itself. In ancient Persia, beauty and cleanliness were often closely connected. A clean courtyard was more welcoming. Fresh water was more refreshing. A well-kept garden was more restful. The simple act of maintaining one's surroundings created an atmosphere of calm that extended throughout the day. As the morning becomes brighter, the wider world gradually begins to awaken. Somewhere beyond the courtyard walls, distant footsteps pass along a road. A market will eventually open. Fields will be tended. Artisans will begin their work. Travelers will continue along the great routes that connect the empire from Egypt to Central Asia. But within the courtyard, the pace remains wonderfully slow. The basin remains clear. The stone remains cool in the shade. The breeze continues to move gently through the trees. The water jar stands quietly against the wall, ready for the next simple task of the day. This peaceful space reminds us that hygiene in ancient Persia was not only about washing the body. It was also about creating an environment of order, freshness, and tranquility. A swept floor, A rinsed vessel. A shaded courtyard. A basin of clean water. These small acts, repeated each morning across countless homes, formed the quiet foundation of Persian daily life. And as the sunlight continues to warm the courtyard stones, the morning remains gentle, unhurried, and deeply restful, inviting you to linger a little longer beside the still water and the silent cypress trees of ancient Persia. The quiet architecture of cleanliness. The morning continues gently across the Persian Empire. The sun has risen a little higher, and its warm light now rests upon stone walls, garden paths, and the quiet courtyards that form the heart of many Persian homes. The coolness of dawn has not entirely disappeared. In the shaded corners of the house, the air remains fresh and pleasant, carrying the soft fragrance of water, cedar wood, and herbs that have been drying since the previous day. There is no hurry in this place. The rhythm of the morning remains slow, as though every task is allowed the time it naturally requires. The home itself seems designed for this unhurried pace, with spaces that invite quiet movement rather than constant activity. Ancient Persian houses were often built with careful attention to climate, comfort, and cleanliness. Thick walls helped keep interiors cool during the hot months, while open courtyards allowed air to circulate gently through the surrounding rooms. Shade and sunlight were balanced throughout the day, and water was placed where it could bring both refreshment and calm. Imagine walking slowly through one of these homes. The stone beneath your feet is smooth from years of gentle use. Light enters through an open courtyard, filling the interior with a soft golden glow rather than harsh brightness. The rooms surrounding the courtyard are simple and orderly. Clay jars stand neatly against the walls. Woven baskets hold dried herbs and grain. Linen cloths are folded carefully and placed upon low shelves. Everything feels quietly arranged. Nothing seems excessive. Nothing appears neglected. This sense of order was one of the most important foundations of Persian cleanliness. Hygiene was not separated from the home itself. The architecture encouraged it. Water was kept nearby. Air could move freely. Dust could be removed easily. Sunlight reached the places where washing and drying took place. At the center of many courtyards rested a basin or small pool of water. Imagine its surface now. The morning breeze creates only the faintest ripple. The sky is reflected so clearly that it seems almost possible to look through the water into another peaceful world beneath it. Nearby, a narrow stone channel carries fresh water quietly into the basin before allowing it to continue onward toward a garden. The movement is gentle and continuous, creating a soft sound that remains almost constant throughout the morning. Listen to that water for a moment. It is not rushing. It is not splashing loudly. It simply flows, steadily and peacefully, touching stone that has been warmed by countless Persian mornings over many generations. Water was always treated with care. Because obtaining it required effort, it was used thoughtfully. Basins were cleaned regularly so that the water remained fresh. Clay vessels were rinsed before being filled again. Drinking water was protected from dust, leaves, and insects by careful storage and simple coverings made from cloth or woven materials. Imagine a large ceramic jar standing in the shade. Its rounded sides are cool to the touch. Tiny droplets of condensation have formed where the cool water inside meets the warming air outside. A smaller pitcher rests beside it, ready to pour water gently into a basin whenever needed. The act of pouring remains slow and deliberate. Water falls in a clear, narrow stream. The basin gradually fills. The sound echoes softly through the quiet courtyard. Then stillness returns once more. Across ancient Persia, similar sounds could be heard every morning in homes both humble and grand. Whether in a modest village dwelling or a spacious residence near Persepolis, the quiet care of water shaped daily life. The floors of many homes were kept remarkably clean through regular sweeping and careful maintenance. Dust was a constant companion in the Persian landscape, carried gently by dry winds across fields, roads, and gardens. Because of this, cleanliness was not achieved through occasional effort, but through steady repetition. Imagine a reed broom moving slowly across a stone floor. The motion is smooth and gentle. Dust gathers quietly into small patterns before being carried away. No harsh movements disturb the calm. The task itself seems almost restful. Sunlight now reaches farther into the courtyard. Warm patches of light appear across the floor, while shaded areas remain cool and comfortable. A pomegranate tree in one corner casts delicate shadows that shift gradually with the passing of time. Small birds occasionally visit the edge of the water basin, drink for a moment, and then disappear again into the garden beyond. The home feels connected to nature rather than separated from it. Air, water, light, and plants all become part of everyday cleanliness. Fresh air moves gently through open spaces. Water cools the surroundings. Sunlight dries washed cloths and pottery. Trees provide shade that protects both people and stored water from excessive heat. Imagine a linen cloth freshly washed and hanging quietly in the courtyard. A gentle breeze passes through its fibers. The fabric moves almost silently. Sunlight gradually dries it, leaving it fresh and clean for the remainder of the day. This simple image captures much of Persian hygiene, natural elements working together with patient human care. Ancient Persian builders understood the importance of drainage as well. Water used for washing did not simply remain where it was poured. Courtyards and washing areas were often designed so that water could flow away gently, preventing stagnation and keeping living spaces dry and clean. Imagine a thin stream of water leaving the basin after use. It travels along a shallow channel cut into stone. The water moves slowly toward a garden, where it nourishes herbs and flowering plants before disappearing into the soil. Nothing is wasted. Even used water can continue its quiet journey through the landscape. The fragrance of the courtyard changes as the morning warms. The scent of damp stone becomes softer. Cedar wood grows warmer in the sunlight. Herbs release a slightly stronger aroma into the air. Everything remains subtle, natural, and deeply calming. The Persian appreciation for gardens was closely connected to this atmosphere of cleanliness and water. Gardens were places where flowing channels, shaded trees, fragrant plants, and open air created a feeling of peace that surrounded the home itself. To live beside water and greenery was considered one of life's quiet pleasures. Imagine sitting beside the basin once again. The water reflects drifting clouds. A light breeze touches the surface. The surrounding walls protect the space from noise and dust. For a few moments, nothing changes except the slow movement of sunlight across stone. This is the quiet architecture of cleanliness. Not grand monuments. Not elaborate ceremonies. But cool courtyards, flowing water, shaded walls, clean vessels, fresh cloths, and the gentle order of a home designed to remain peaceful throughout the changing hours of the day. As the morning approaches midday, the courtyard continues to offer calm shelter from the growing warmth outside. The basin remains clear. The water jar remains cool. The breeze continues to move softly through the cypress and pomegranate leaves. And within this quiet Persian home, cleanliness is not simply a task that has been completed. It is an atmosphere. It is the feeling of fresh water nearby. The comfort of cool stone beneath your feet. The fragrance of herbs in warm sunlight. The silence of a well-kept courtyard. The gentle rhythm of a world that asks nothing of you except to remain still for a little while longer. Bathing before the heat. Cool water in the early morning. The morning has deepened gently across ancient Persia. The sun now rests above the eastern hills, and a warm golden light spreads across courtyards, gardens, and quiet stone pathways. The coolness of dawn still lingers in shaded places, and the day has not yet reached the bright intensity that will arrive later. This is one of the most comfortable hours of the Persian morning, when the air remains pleasant and the world feels balance between freshness and warmth. It is during this gentle part of the day that bathing often becomes most inviting. In the Achaemenid Persian Empire, bathing was not always a long or elaborate ritual. For many people, it was a simple and careful act of refreshment, performed with cool water, natural cleansers, and patient attention. The purpose was not only to remove dust from the skin, but also to begin the day with a feeling of clarity, comfort, and quiet order. Imagine a shaded washing area beside a peaceful courtyard. A stone basin has been filled with fresh water drawn earlier in the morning. The water is still cool from the earth below, untouched by the heat of the sun. Nearby rests a smooth clay bowl containing fine natural clay, along with a small bundle of dried herbs whose fragrance becomes noticeable whenever the breeze passes gently through the courtyard. Everything is prepared. Nothing is hurried. The morning invites slowness. A small vessel lifts water from the basin. The first stream falls gently over waiting hands. The coolness is immediate and soothing. Drops of water fall onto warm stone, leaving dark circles that slowly fade as the sunlight reaches them. The sound is soft enough that it almost blends with the distant song of birds and the quiet movement of water through nearby channels. Across ancient Persia, bathing was shaped by the environment itself. The Iranian plateau could become very warm during the middle of the day, especially in the dry months of summer. Because of this, the early morning offered one of the most comfortable times for washing. The air was fresh, the water remained cool, and the body could be refreshed before the heat settled across the landscape. Imagine pouring cool water slowly across your face. The sensation is gentle and calming. The skin feels refreshed. The mind becomes quieter. The simple act of washing seems to awaken the morning itself. Natural materials were commonly used for cleansing. Fine clay, mixed with water into a smooth paste, could help remove dust and oil from the skin. Ash from clean burning wood, carefully prepared, served as another gentle cleansing substance. Crushed herbs and aromatic plants could be added to water, creating subtle fragrances that lingered softly in the air. These scents were never overwhelming. A hint of mint. A trace of wild thyme. The gentle freshness of crushed leaves. The faint sweetness of blossoms growing nearby. The fragrances belong to the landscape itself, blending naturally with damp stone, flowing water, and warm morning light. Imagine a shallow bowl of pale clay resting beside the basin. A small amount is mixed with cool water until it becomes smooth and soft. It is applied gently to the hands and arms, then rinsed away with clear water from the basin. The skin is left clean, cool, and refreshed. The entire process is quiet enough that the only sounds are water, birds, and the occasional breeze moving through cypress branches. The architecture of Persian homes made these moments especially peaceful. Courtyards provided privacy, shade, and fresh air. Water remained close at hand, stored in large ceramic jars that kept it cool for many hours. Sunlight entered gradually, allowing washing to take place in gentle morning light rather than harsh afternoon brightness. Imagine the courtyard around you. One wall is still in shadow. Another has begun to glow with pale gold sunlight. The basin reflects drifting clouds. A linen cloth hangs nearby, moving softly whenever the breeze passes through. Nothing disturbs the calm. The Persian appreciation for water extended far beyond its practical use. Influenced by Zoroastrian traditions, many people regarded water as something that should remain pure and carefully protected. Fresh water was treated with respect, and washing often carried a quiet sense of order and balance rather than simple necessity. Imagine water being poured from a beautifully shaped ceramic vessel. The stream is clear. The basin ripples gently. Then the surface becomes still once more. There is something deeply soothing about this repeated movement, the simple cycle of pouring, washing, and stillness. Bathing in ancient Persia was often modest and practical. A full immersion bath might not occur every day for every person, especially outside wealthier households, but regular washing of the body was an important part of daily life. Hands, face, feet, and exposed skin were frequently cleaned, particularly in a climate where dust settled easily upon the body and clothing. Imagine rinsing your feet with cool water after walking across warm stone paths. The water carries away a thin layer of dust. The sensation is refreshing. The air feels lighter. Even the morning seems quieter afterward. As the sun rises a little higher, the courtyard begins to warm gently. Light spreads across the floor in slow-moving patterns. The cypress trees cast long shadows that gradually shorten with time. A small bird lands at the edge of the basin, drinks a few drops, and disappears into the garden beyond. The water remains cool. The stone remains smooth. The morning remains peaceful. Nearby, a garden begins to awaken more fully. Pomegranate leaves shimmer in the light. Figs hang quietly from broad branches. Herbs release a slightly stronger fragrance as warmth touches them. A narrow irrigation channel carries water through the garden with a continuous soft murmur that seems to slow every passing moment. Imagine sitting quietly after washing. Your hands are cool. The linen cloth feels soft and dry. The scent of herbs drifts gently through the air. The only movement is the breeze, the water, and the gradual passage of sunlight across stone. This is not a dramatic ritual. It is not a grand ceremony. It is simply a peaceful beginning to the day, repeated across countless Persian homes for generations. A basin of fresh water. A clay vessel. A linen cloth. Cool morning air. The fragrance of herbs. The quiet sound of flowing water. These simple elements formed the heart of Persian morning bathing, creating a gentle atmosphere that prepared the body and mind for the hours ahead. As the morning continues to unfold across the empire, the courtyards remain calm, the gardens remain fresh, and the water continues its quiet journey through stone channels and shaded pools. For a little while longer, remain beside that cool basin. Listen to the water. Feel the morning breeze. Watch the sunlight move slowly across the courtyard walls. The day has only begun, and ancient Persia continues to awaken with remarkable peace and gentle grace. Oils, clay, and the gentle ritual of bathing. The morning in ancient Persia continues with quiet grace. The sun has climbed a little higher, yet the heat of the day has not fully arrived. The courtyards remain comfortably cool in their shaded corners, and the gentle sound of water still moves through narrow channels carved into stone. The air is calm, carrying the faint fragrance of cedar wood, fresh clay, and herbs warmed by the first sunlight. This is a peaceful hour, when the body has already been refreshed by cool water, and the slower ritual of bathing can continue with patient care. In the Persian world, bathing was not always a matter of luxury. More often, it was an expression of balance. Dust from roads and gardens, the dryness of the air, and the warmth of the climate all encouraged regular washing. The body was cared for gently, using simple materials provided by the landscape itself. Imagine a shallow stone platform beside a quiet basin. A small clay bowl rests nearby, filled with fine pale earth collected from clean ground and carefully prepared for washing. Another bowl contains a little aromatic oil, perhaps infused with herbs, flowers, or cedar. A linen cloth has been folded neatly and placed within reach. Everything is simple. Everything is calm. Nothing is excessive. The ritual begins with water. A small vessel is dipped into the basin and lifted slowly. Cool water is poured gently across the arms and shoulders. The skin cools immediately. A few drops fall quietly onto the stone below. The only sound is the soft rhythm of water meeting water. Fine clay is then mixed with a little water until it becomes smooth, almost like soft earth after a gentle rain. It is applied lightly to the skin, not with haste, but with slow and careful movements. The clay helps lift away dust, oil, and the fine particles carried by the Persian wind. Imagine the texture of cool clay between your hands. Smooth, soft, comforting. It carries the scent of clean earth, subtle and natural, blending with the fragrance of water and morning air. After a few quiet moments, clear water is poured again. The clay is rinsed away slowly. The water flows across the skin and returns to the basin in gentle ripples that gradually become still. This unhurried rhythm is perhaps the most beautiful part of ancient Persian bathing. Pour. Wash. Pause. Rinse. Rest. There is no urgency. The morning allows every movement to unfold at its own pace. In many parts of the Persian Empire, aromatic oils were valued not only for fragrance but also for comfort. The dry climate could leave the skin feeling rough after exposure to wind and sun, and light oils helped soften and protect it. These oils were often derived from plants, seeds, or fragrant woods known throughout the ancient Near East. Imagine a small ceramic bottle with a narrow neck. A few drops of scented oil are poured into the palm. The fragrance is gentle, perhaps cedar, myrrh, rose, or another subtle Persian aroma. The oil is warmed slightly by the morning air before being spread slowly across the hands and arms. The scent is delicate. It never overwhelms the senses. Instead, it lingers quietly, becoming part of the atmosphere of the courtyard itself. Sunlight now reaches farther across the stone floor. The basin reflects patches of blue sky between the leaves of a nearby cypress tree. A breeze passes gently through the courtyard, carrying the faint rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of flowing water from a garden channel beyond the wall. Everything remains peaceful. The architecture of Persian homes made these moments especially restful. Thick walls protected the interior from the growing heat outside, while open courtyards allowed fresh air to circulate freely. Water remained close at hand, and shaded spaces offered comfort even as the morning gradually became warmer. Imagine sitting quietly beside the basin after bathing. A clean linen cloth rests across your shoulders. The stone beneath you is pleasantly cool. The fragrance of herbs and cedar drifts through the air. The only movement is the slow passage of light across the courtyard walls. In ancient Persia, cleanliness was closely connected with order. A clean basin, a rinsed vessel, a fresh cloth, a carefully swept courtyard. These small acts created an environment that felt calm and harmonious, and the bathing ritual naturally belonged within that larger pattern of daily life. Water was never treated carelessly. After washing, the remaining water might be guided gently through a shallow channel toward a garden, where it could nourish herbs, flowers, or young trees. Even used water continued its quiet journey through the landscape. Imagine a thin stream leaving the basin. It moves slowly along a narrow stone groove. Sunlight sparkles briefly on its surface. Then it disappears among the roots of fragrant plants growing nearby. Nothing is wasted. Everything remains connected. As the morning continues, birds become more active among the trees. A dove settles briefly near the edge of the water. Small insects drift through beams of sunlight. The scent of warm stone begins to mingle with the cooler fragrance of water and fresh linen. The world feels uncommonly gentle. Bathing in ancient Persia was not simply about becoming clean. It was about beginning the day in balance. Cool water refreshed the body. Clay cleansed the skin. Aromatic oils softened and protected it. Fresh air moved through shaded courtyards. Gardens surrounded the home with fragrance and quiet beauty. Imagine resting for a few moments longer. Your hands are cool. The linen cloth is dry and light. The basin is perfectly still once again. Above you, the sky has become a clear Persian blue. The cypress branches move almost imperceptibly in the breeze. This quiet ritual has now come to its natural end. No dramatic event follows. No sudden change disturbs the morning. Instead, the day simply continues, carrying with it the freshness of water, the softness of clean linen, the subtle fragrance of cedar and herbs, and the deep calm that seems to flow through every courtyard, garden, and stone pathway of ancient Persia. Remain there for a little while longer. Listen to the water. Breathe the warm morning air. Feel the cool stone beneath you. And allow the gentle peace of ancient Persia to linger quietly as the sun rises higher over the tranquil empire. The fragrance of daily life. Herbs, flowers, and the quiet scent of Persia. The morning has now settled gently across the Persian Empire. The sun has risen well above the horizon, yet the day still feels calm and unhurried. Warm light rests softly upon pale stone walls, cypress trees, and the quiet courtyards that lie hidden behind simple doorways. The cool freshness of dawn has gradually blended with the gentle warmth of the early day, creating a peaceful balance that seems to linger over gardens, water channels, and shaded pathways. In ancient Persia, cleanliness was not experienced only through water. It was also experienced through fragrance. Imagine standing quietly within a Persian garden where narrow channels of clear water divide the pathways into gentle geometric patterns. Cypress trees rise tall and still, while pomegranate, fig, and almond trees cast delicate shadows across the ground. Small flowering plants grow beside the water, releasing faint aromas that drift slowly through the warm air. Nothing is overpowering. Nothing is artificial. The fragrances are soft, natural, and closely connected to the earth itself. A light breeze passes through the garden. It carries the scent of fresh herbs, cedar wood, warm stone, and distant blossoms. The air feels clean, and the fragrance seems to arrive gradually, almost unnoticed, until it becomes part of the silence around you. The Persian love of gardens was famous throughout the ancient world. Long before later civilizations celebrated enclosed gardens as places of beauty and rest, Persian landscapes were carefully designed to combine water, shade, trees, flowers, and fragrance into a single peaceful environment. The garden was not merely decorative. It was a place where the senses could become calm. Imagine walking slowly along a shaded garden path. Water flows gently beside you through a narrow stone channel. The leaves of a pomegranate tree shimmer softly in the sunlight. A cluster of herbs grows near the edge of the water, releasing a faint scent whenever the breeze touches them. The sound of flowing water remains constant and soothing, blending perfectly with the fragrance of the plants. In ancient Persia, herbs were valued for many purposes. They flavored food, soothed the body, scented rooms, and freshened the air around the home. Mint, thyme, and other aromatic plants were cultivated in gardens and courtyards, where they could be gathered easily during the day. Imagine a small woven basket filled with freshly gathered herbs. The leaves are cool from the morning shade. When gently crushed between the fingers, they release a clean, refreshing fragrance that fills the surrounding air. Nearby, a clay bowl contains water infused with herbs and flowers, prepared not for drinking, but for gently refreshing the hands, cloths, or the air within a shaded room. The scent is delicate. It never dominates the space. Instead, it becomes part of the quiet atmosphere of the home. The architecture of Persian houses helped preserve these gentle fragrances. Thick walls kept interiors cool, while open courtyards allowed air to move slowly through rooms and shaded passages. Fresh herbs could be placed near windows or water basins, allowing their aroma to drift naturally throughout the house. Imagine entering a cool room from the sunlit courtyard. The temperature changes immediately. The air is soft and still. A faint fragrance of cedar wood and dried herbs lingers within the shaded space. Light enters gently from the courtyard, illuminating simple pottery, folded linen cloths, and carefully arranged household objects. Everything feels calm. Everything feels clean. Fragrance in ancient Persia was closely connected with daily life rather than constant luxury. Even modest homes could enjoy the scent of herbs growing nearby, flowers blooming in a courtyard, or cedar wood stored within the house. The goal was not extravagance, but freshness and harmony. Imagine a small bundle of dried herbs hanging from a wooden beam. The leaves have been gathered carefully and left to dry in the shade. Whenever the breeze passes through the room, the herbs release a faint pleasant aroma that mingles with the scent of clean linen and cool stone. Outside, the garden remains peaceful. A dove lands beside the water channel. Small insects drift through beams of sunlight. The water continues its quiet movement through carefully designed pathways, nourishing trees and flowers that, in turn, perfume the surrounding air. The Persian understanding of beauty often included fragrance as an invisible companion to water and light. A garden was not complete without pleasant scents. A courtyard felt fresher when herbs and flowers were nearby. Cleanliness was experienced not only through washed skin and fresh clothing, but also through the gentle aromas that surrounded everyday life. Imagine sitting beside a shaded basin. The water reflects the leaves above. A sprig of fresh mint rests upon the edge of the stone. The fragrance rises softly in the warm air. There is no need to move quickly. No need to speak. The quiet scent of the garden is enough. As the morning gradually approaches midday, the sunlight becomes brighter, yet the shaded parts of the garden remain comfortably cool. The fragrance of herbs grows slightly stronger as warmth touches their leaves. Blossoms release their aroma more fully. Cedar wood, warmed gently by the sun, adds a subtle richness to the air. These scents would have accompanied ordinary life across much of ancient Persia. They drifted through homes. They lingered in gardens. They surrounded water basins and shaded courtyards. They became part of memory itself. Imagine clean linen cloths drying slowly in filtered sunlight. Nearby, a bowl of aromatic water rests quietly in the shade. The breeze carries the fragrance across the courtyard, mixing with the sound of flowing water and distant birdsong. The atmosphere feels deeply restful. Nothing dramatic occurs. The garden simply breathes. The water continues to flow. The herbs continue to release their gentle fragrance. The sunlight continues its slow journey across the stone pathways. In this peaceful world, cleanliness is not separated from beauty. Fresh water, clean stone, cool shade, fragrant herbs, flowering trees, soft air. These simple elements come together to create a life that feels balanced and serene. As the sun climbs a little higher over the Persian landscape, the garden remains a place of quiet refuge. The cypress trees stand motionless. The water channels shimmer gently. The herbs continue to perfume the warm air with subtle sweetness and freshness. And within this calm garden, surrounded by water, light, and fragrance, ancient Persia reveals another gentle truth, that a clean and peaceful life could be experienced not only through washing the body, but also through the quiet scent of the world itself. Remain there for a little while longer. Breathe slowly. Listen to the flowing water. Notice the fragrance of herbs carried by the breeze. The garden is still. The empire is calm, and the day continues with quiet and gentle grace. Perfumed oils and fresh linen. The day has moved gently toward the quiet warmth of late morning. Across the Persian Empire, sunlight now rests softly upon courtyards, gardens, and pale stone walls. The air is warmer than it was at dawn, yet it remains calm, with a gentle breeze passing through cypress branches and carrying the faint scent of herbs and flowering plants. Water continues to move through narrow channels, its quiet sound blending with birdsong and the soft rustle of leaves. This is a peaceful hour, when freshly washed linen begins to dry in the sunlight and the subtle fragrance of perfumed oils becomes part of the stillness of the home. In ancient Persia, clean clothing was deeply connected with comfort, dignity, and the feeling of order that shaped everyday life. Linen and wool garments, once washed and carefully dried, carried the freshness of water, sunlight, and open air. They did not need strong perfumes to feel pleasant. Often, the gentle scent of clean fabric itself was enough. Imagine a quiet courtyard where several pieces of pale linen hang from simple wooden lines stretched between shaded walls. The cloth moves softly whenever the breeze passes through. Sunlight filters through the fabric, creating patterns of light and shadow across the stone floor below. The air is filled with the comforting fragrance of warm linen, damp stone, and nearby herbs. Everything feels wonderfully simple. Everything feels wonderfully calm. The process of washing and drying clothing was slow and careful. Garments were rinsed thoroughly, excess water was gently pressed away, and the fabric was left where fresh air and sunlight could do the rest. The dry climate of much of Persia made sunlight an important companion in keeping cloth fresh and pleasant. Imagine touching a piece of linen that has nearly finished drying. It is light, cool in the shaded areas, warm where the sunlight has rested upon it. The fabric carries a faint scent of water and open air, with perhaps the slightest trace of herbs from the courtyard nearby. In a peaceful Persian home, clothing was not simply stored away after drying. It was often folded carefully, arranged neatly, and kept in places protected from dust and excessive heat. Order itself contributed to cleanliness. A well-kept room, a carefully folded garment, and a clean storage jar all belong to the same quiet philosophy of daily life. Imagine entering a shaded room beside the courtyard. The temperature becomes pleasantly cool. Light enters gently from the open courtyard, illuminating shelves of pottery, woven baskets, folded textiles, and simple wooden furnishings. A small ceramic vessel rests upon a low table. Inside it is a fragrant oil prepared from plants, flowers, or aromatic woods known throughout the Persian world. The fragrance is subtle. Perhaps cedar. Perhaps rose. Perhaps myrrh or another gentle resin carried across the empire by traders who traveled slowly along ancient roads. Perfumed oils in Persia were valued not only for luxury, but also for freshness and comfort. A small amount could be applied lightly to the skin after washing, helping protect it from dryness and leaving behind a delicate fragrance that lingered quietly throughout the day. Imagine a single drop of oil placed into the palm. It catches the sunlight for a moment before being spread gently across the hands. The scent rises slowly. It is warm, soft, and calming. Nothing sharp. Nothing overpowering. Only a quiet fragrance that seems perfectly suited to a peaceful morning. The Persian Empire connected many different landscapes and cultures, allowing aromatic resins, flowers, herbs, and woods to travel across great distances. Frankincense, myrrh, cedar, and floral oils were known throughout the ancient Near East, and their fragrances often became part of religious ceremonies, royal life, hospitality, and everyday comfort. Imagine a small cedar chest resting against a cool wall. Inside are neatly folded linen cloths. The wood itself releases a faint resinous fragrance that gently perfumes the fabric over time. When the chest is opened, the scent is fresh, clean, and comforting, blending naturally with the smell of linen and cool air. Outside, the courtyard remains peaceful. The linen continues to move softly in the breeze. A dove settles briefly near the water basin. The surface of the water reflects drifting clouds and the dark green branches of a cypress tree. The only sounds are water, leaves, and distant birds. Fresh linen and fragrant oils belong to a larger atmosphere of cleanliness that surrounded Persian homes. A swept courtyard, a washed garment, a cool room, and a lightly scented cloth all contributed to a feeling of harmony that was gentle rather than extravagant. Imagine folding a freshly dried linen cloth. The fabric is smooth beneath your hands. It holds the warmth of the sun. Its fragrance is subtle and clean. The movement is slow and unhurried, each fold creating a sense of quiet order. In many homes, aromatic herbs could also be placed among stored textiles. Dried mint, thyme, or other fragrant plants might rest in small woven bundles, allowing their scent to remain with the fabric while helping keep storage spaces fresh. Imagine opening a woven basket filled with carefully folded cloth. A faint herbal fragrance rises into the cool room. The scent is soft enough that it almost seems part of the air itself. The Persian appreciation for fragrance was closely connected with hospitality. A clean home that smelled pleasantly of fresh linen, cedar, herbs, and flowing water created an atmosphere of welcome and peace. Visitors would have encountered not only orderly surroundings, but also a gentle sensory experience shaped by natural materials and careful daily routines. Imagine a shaded doorway opening from the courtyard into a cool interior room. A light breeze moves through the space. The fragrance of cedar and fresh linen drifts outward. Sunlight touches the threshold while the room beyond remains comfortably cool and quiet. Nothing disturbs the stillness. As late morning slowly approaches midday, the warmth increases slightly, yet the shaded courtyard continues to offer refuge from the sun. The linen is now fully dry and neatly folded. The small vessel of fragrant oil remains upon the table, catching a narrow beam of sunlight. The water basin remains clear and still. The entire home feels prepared. Not busy. Not crowded. Simply cared for. This quiet care was one of the most enduring qualities of ancient Persian hygiene. Cleanliness was not limited to washing the body. It extended gently into clothing, storage, fragrance, architecture, and the peaceful arrangement of everyday life. Imagine sitting quietly beside the folded linen. The cloth is cool in the shade. The fragrance of cedar and herbs surrounds you. The breeze moves softly through the courtyard. Water continues its gentle journey through stone channels nearby. The day feels spacious. The silence feels comforting. In this peaceful Persian home, fragrance is almost invisible. It drifts through rooms. It settles into cloth. It rises from wood, herbs, and flowers warmed by the sun. It becomes part of the memory of the place itself. And so the morning continues without urgency, wrapped in the gentle scent of fresh linen, cedar wood, herbs, and quiet sunlight. Remain there for a little while longer. Breathe slowly. Listen to the water. Notice the warmth of the stone, the softness of the cloth, and the faint fragrance carried by the breeze. The Persian Empire remains calm. The courtyard remains still. And the quiet beauty of everyday life continues to unfold, one peaceful breath at a time. The sacred quiet of water. Purity in the Persian world. The morning has now reached its gentlest fullness. Across the wide landscapes of ancient Persia, sunlight rests softly upon stone terraces, quiet gardens, shaded courtyards, and the narrow channels through which clear water continues its patient journey. The air is warm but still pleasant, carrying the fragrance of herbs, cedar wood, and flowering plants that have slowly awakened beneath the morning sun. The rhythm of the day remains unhurried, and nothing asks to be rushed. In this peaceful hour, it becomes easier to notice something that quietly shaped much of Persian life. Water was not only useful, it was respected. To understand hygiene in ancient Persia, it helps to pause beside a still basin or a gently flowing channel and simply listen. The sound of water was woven into daily life, into gardens, homes, temples, and quiet places of reflection. It cooled the air, nourished trees, refreshed the body, and brought life to landscapes that might otherwise have remained dry and silent. Imagine standing beside a narrow stone channel in the shade of a cypress tree. The water moves slowly, almost silently, reflecting patches of blue sky and green leaves. The surface is so clear that small stones beneath it can be seen without effort. A light breeze passes through the garden, creating faint ripples that disappear almost as soon as they appear. Everything feels calm. Everything feels balanced. Ancient Persian culture was deeply influenced by Zoroastrian traditions, and within that world, the natural elements were treated with great care. Water, fire, earth, and air were not merely resources to be used. They were part of the ordered world that deserved protection from unnecessary pollution and neglect. While practices varied across regions and centuries, the general spirit was one of respect, cleanliness, and thoughtful attention. Imagine a clear spring emerging from the base of a rocky hillside. The water is cool even as the day becomes warmer. It gathers quietly in a small pool before continuing into channels that will eventually nourish gardens, orchards, and homes. No loud activity surrounds it. The place feels almost peaceful enough to be a sanctuary. This quiet reverence for water influenced everyday hygiene in subtle ways. Fresh water was preferred whenever possible. Washing basins were kept clean. Drinking vessels were rinsed carefully. Water channels were maintained so that they could continue flowing clearly through the landscape. Imagine a clay jar being filled from a clean channel. The vessel is lowered slowly. Water enters with a soft, hollow sound. The jar is lifted again, cool and heavy, and carried carefully back toward a shaded courtyard. There is no waste. There is no carelessness. Only quiet attention. In many Persian homes, the presence of water brought both comfort and peace. A basin placed in the center of a courtyard reflected the sky throughout the day. A narrow channel carried water through a garden, allowing trees and herbs to flourish. Even a simple ceramic vessel filled with cool water could transform the feeling of a room during the warmer hours of the afternoon. Imagine entering a shaded interior space from the bright courtyard. The temperature becomes noticeably cooler. A large water jar rests against the wall, its surface slightly damp from the coolness within. Nearby, a shallow bowl of water reflects the filtered light entering through the courtyard opening. The air feels fresh. The room feels quiet. The presence of water seems to soften everything around it. Because fresh water was precious, Persian engineers developed remarkable systems to protect and transport it. Underground qanats carried groundwater across great distances beneath the earth, preserving its cool temperature and reducing evaporation beneath the hot sun. These hidden channels supplied villages, farms, gardens, and cities with steady sources of clean water. Imagine water traveling silently beneath the earth. Far above, the landscape appears dry and sunlit. But below the surface, cool water continues its patient journey through carefully constructed tunnels, moving steadily toward distant orchards and quiet courtyards where it will eventually emerge into the light. This hidden movement of water feels almost meditative. Slow. Constant. Reliable. It asks for no attention. It simply continues. In the Persian understanding of order, cleanliness often began with protecting what was already pure. A clear channel remained clear through careful maintenance. A basin remained fresh through regular rinsing. A water jar remained pleasant because it was covered, shaded, and kept free from dust. Imagine a shaded courtyard where a basin has just been rinsed. Fresh water fills it once again. The surface becomes perfectly still. A single leaf falls gently onto the water and drifts slowly across it before coming to rest near the stone edge. The simplicity of the moment is deeply calming. As the morning grows warmer, gardens become even more fragrant. Mint, thyme, and flowering shrubs release gentle aromas into the air. Water moving through irrigation channels nourishes the roots of trees and herbs, while birds gather briefly at the edges of shallow pools before flying quietly away again. The connection between cleanliness and nature becomes increasingly clear. Fresh water, healthy plants, cool shade, clean stone, clear air. These elements belong together. Imagine sitting beside a narrow channel beneath the shade of a cypress tree. The stone beside you has been warmed gently by the morning sun. The water remains cool. A breeze moves through the branches above, carrying the scent of herbs from the garden nearby. The only sounds are flowing water, distant birds, and the soft rustle of leaves. Nothing interrupts the stillness. This peaceful atmosphere helps explain why Persian gardens were so highly valued. They were not merely decorative spaces. They were places where water, shade, fragrance, and order came together to create an experience of balance. To walk through a well-watered garden was to experience freshness in a dry land, and that freshness naturally became associated with cleanliness and well-being. Imagine a garden path divided by 4 narrow channels of water. Trees cast gentle shadows across the stone. Flowers bloom quietly along the edges. The air is cool enough that you can remain there comfortably for a long time. Every breath feels slow. Every step feels unhurried. As midday approaches, sunlight becomes brighter, yet the shaded areas around water remain wonderfully pleasant. The basin in the courtyard continues reflecting the sky. The water jar remains cool against the wall. The underground qanats continue their invisible work beneath the earth, carrying life quietly across the empire. The Persian world reveals one of its deepest lessons in these simple scenes. Cleanliness was not only about washing the body. It was about preserving harmony, protecting water, caring for the home, maintaining gardens, keeping vessels fresh, allowing natural elements to remain pure and balanced. These quiet habits, repeated day after day across villages, estates, and royal cities, created an atmosphere of remarkable calm. Remain beside the water for a little while longer. Watch the sunlight shimmer gently upon its surface. Listen to the slow and steady flow through the stone channel. Breathe the fragrance of herbs and warm earth. The empire is vast, yet this small corner of it remains perfectly peaceful. The water continues to move. The garden continues to bloom. And the quiet order of ancient Persia continues, one gentle moment at a time. The gentle ritual of purification. The day has moved quietly toward the gentle warmth of midday. Across the Persian Empire, sunlight now rests softly upon pale stone walls, shaded courtyards, quiet gardens, and the narrow channels through which clear water continues its patient journey. The air is warmer than it was at dawn, yet the shade beneath cypress trees and along cool stone corridors remains wonderfully comfortable. The fragrance of herbs lingers in the breeze, and the sound of flowing water continues without interruption, as steady and peaceful as a slow breath. This is a calm hour, a time when the rhythm of ancient Persia feels especially gentle. The hurried tasks of the morning have already been completed, and the stronger heat of the afternoon has not yet fully arrived. In this quiet interval, it becomes easier to notice the small, thoughtful habits that shaped everyday life. Among them was the simple and deeply comforting practice of washing with clean water before entering moments of prayer, rest, meals, or important daily activities. In the Persian world, purification was often quiet rather than dramatic. Imagine a shaded courtyard enclosed by smooth stone walls that have absorbed the warmth of many peaceful mornings. At its center rests a clear basin filled with fresh water drawn earlier in the day. The surface is perfectly still, reflecting a patch of blue sky and the dark green branches of a nearby cypress tree. A ceramic vessel stands beside the basin, its curved surface cool where it has remained in the shade. The first movement is almost silent. Water is lifted gently from the basin. A small stream falls over waiting hands. The sound is soft enough that it seems to disappear into the stillness around it. There is no rush. No urgency. Only the quiet rhythm of water touching skin and stone. In ancient Persia, washing before certain activities was connected not only with physical cleanliness but also with a feeling of order and readiness. Fresh water helped remove dust from the hands and face, cooled the body during warm weather, and created a gentle pause before the next part of the day began. The act itself was simple, but its simplicity is what makes it feel so peaceful. Imagine rinsing your hands slowly. Cool water flows across your fingers. Tiny droplets catch the sunlight for a brief moment before falling quietly back into the basin. A linen cloth rests nearby, folded carefully and left to dry in the gentle breeze. Everything in the courtyard feels prepared. Everything feels calm. The Persian appreciation for cleanliness was closely connected with respect for the natural elements. Water was protected because it sustained life. Fire was tended carefully because it brought warmth, light, and ritual significance. Earth was cultivated through gardens and fields, and clean air moved through courtyards and open spaces. Hygiene was not separated from the environment around it, it was woven into a broader understanding of harmony. Imagine a narrow channel carrying clear water through a garden. The water moves slowly beneath flowering shrubs and small fruit trees. Mint grows along the edge of the channel, releasing a faint fragrance whenever the breeze passes through. The sound of flowing water remains constant and soothing, creating a gentle background that seems to quiet every thought. Because water was precious, its use was thoughtful rather than excessive. A small amount of clean water, used with care, could refresh the body remarkably well. Basins were rinsed regularly. Clay vessels were kept clean. Water jars were stored in cool shaded places where they remained fresh throughout the day. Imagine opening a large ceramic jar that has been resting in the shade since morning. The air inside is noticeably cooler. The water reflects a circle of light from the opening above. When poured into a basin, it carries with it the coolness of the earth from which it was drawn. That coolness spreads gently across the skin, bringing comfort as the day grows warmer. In many Persian homes, moments of washing created natural pauses in the day. Before a meal. Before prayer. After returning from a dusty road. After working in a garden. Before resting during the warm afternoon hours. These pauses were quiet opportunities to return to freshness, to wash away dust, and to feel once again the simple pleasure of cool water. Imagine sitting beside a basin after washing. Your hands are clean. The linen cloth feels soft and dry. The breeze carries the scent of thyme and cedar through the courtyard. A dove lands briefly near the edge of the water, drinks a few small sips, and then disappears into the shade. The water becomes still again. Nothing dramatic happens. The peace lies entirely in the ordinary. Archaeological evidence and historical writings suggest that Persian society placed considerable importance on orderly domestic life. Courtyards were maintained carefully. Gardens were irrigated with remarkable skill. Storage jars were arranged thoughtfully. Cleanliness was not an occasional event but a daily rhythm, repeated quietly across villages, estates, and cities throughout the empire. Imagine sunlight moving slowly across a stone floor. Together, these simple elements created a form of everyday well-being that required no luxury, only careful attention. As midday approaches, the warmth becomes slightly stronger. Yet within the shaded courtyard the air remains pleasant. The stone walls protect the interior from harsh sunlight. The basin remains cool. The water jar stands quietly against the wall. A narrow channel continues carrying fresh water toward the garden beyond. Imagine dipping your hands into the basin once more. The water is wonderfully cool. Tiny ripples spread outward across the surface. For a moment, the entire courtyard seems to breathe with that movement before becoming still again. This is the gentle ritual of purification in ancient Persia. Not a grand ceremony. Not an elaborate performance. Simply the peaceful habit of washing with clean water, caring for the body, respecting the natural world, and allowing small daily actions to create harmony. The afternoon will come. The gardens will grow warmer. The shadows will slowly lengthen once again. But for now, the quiet of midday remains. The water continues to flow. The herbs continue to release their fragrance. The cypress trees remain still beneath the Persian sky. And the calm order of ancient Persia continues, one gentle washing, one quiet breath, and one peaceful moment at a time. Remain there for a little while longer. Listen to the water moving softly through stone. Feel the coolness of the basin beneath your hands. Breathe the scent of cedar, mint, and warm earth. Allow the silence of the Persian courtyard to settle gently around you as the empire continues its slow and peaceful day beneath the clear blue sky. The hidden waterways of the empire. The silent journey beneath the earth. The quiet afternoon has begun to settle gently across the Persian Empire. The bright warmth of midday has softened, and a calm stillness now rests upon the hills, gardens, villages, and distant royal cities. The air carries the faint scent of sun-warmed stone, dry earth, and herbs that have spent the morning beneath a clear blue sky. The cypress trees remain motionless, and the narrow channels that cross the gardens continue their patient movement, carrying water from unseen places beyond the horizon. This is a peaceful hour, when the landscape itself seems to invite slow attention. In ancient Persia, one of the greatest sources of cleanliness and comfort was almost invisible. Beneath the surface of the earth, hidden from the heat of the sun and the dust of the wind, an extraordinary network of underground waterways carried fresh water across long distances with remarkable patience. These channels, known as qanats, were among the most beautiful achievements of Persian engineering, and they quietly supported everyday life throughout much of the empire. Imagine standing on a gentle hillside overlooking a broad Persian plain. At first, the land appears simple and dry. Pale soil stretches toward distant mountains. Small groves of trees mark the places where water reaches the surface. Gardens and orchards seem to bloom unexpectedly within an otherwise quiet landscape. From above, the source of this greenery is not immediately visible. But beneath the earth, cool water is already moving. It travels silently through carefully constructed tunnels, guided by a gentle slope that allows gravity alone to carry it from mountain aquifers toward villages, fields, gardens, and courtyards many miles away. No rushing river is required. No great machine disturbs the silence. The water simply flows, steadily and faithfully, hidden from view and protected from the intense Persian sun. Imagine descending slowly toward one of the vertical shafts that opens into the qanat below. The air becomes cooler with every step. The warmth of the afternoon fades behind you. The earth surrounding the passage feels calm and still, and from somewhere below comes the soft, continuous sound of water moving through darkness. It is one of the quietest sounds imaginable. Not loud enough to echo dramatically. Not fast enough to create turbulence. Only a gentle, steady murmur that has continued for generations. The builders of these underground channels understood the landscape with extraordinary care. They studied the slopes of mountains, the hidden movement of groundwater, and the way water could travel naturally beneath the surface. By creating long tunnels with carefully measured gradients, they allowed fresh water to emerge gently into the light far from its original source. Imagine the patience required. Stone removed slowly. Earth carried away quietly. Tunnels extended little by little beneath the ground. Every movement measured. Every angle considered. Every section connected with the next until the hidden water found its peaceful path across the land. The result was astonishingly gentle. Water arrived cool even during the hottest months. It was protected from evaporation. It remained cleaner than water exposed constantly to dust and sunlight. And because it emerged gradually, it could be directed into channels, basins, gardens, and homes with remarkable efficiency. Imagine the moment when underground water reaches the surface. A small opening appears among trees and stone. Clear water flows outward into a narrow channel. The surrounding earth becomes green. Herbs begin to grow. Birds gather nearby. The air feels noticeably cooler. From this quiet emergence, an entire landscape of cleanliness and life can unfold. Persian homes often depended upon these hidden waterways. The water that filled courtyard basins, cooled shaded rooms, refreshed gardens, washed linen, and cleansed the body may have begun its journey far away beneath the mountains. By the time it reached a quiet courtyard in Persepolis or a small village garden in the countryside, it had already traveled patiently through darkness for many miles. Imagine a courtyard where a basin has just been filled. The water is remarkably cool despite the warm afternoon. Sunlight reflects softly across its surface. Nearby, a ceramic jar is being filled for drinking and washing. No one watching the basin would immediately see the long underground journey that made this simple moment possible. The Persian appreciation for water was therefore also an appreciation for patience. Qanats did not rush. They did not flood suddenly. They moved with quiet consistency. Day after day. Season after season. Year after year. Their steady flow encouraged a steady way of life. Gardens could be planned. Trees could mature. Homes could remain clean. Basins could be filled. Linen could be washed. Herbs could be cultivated. All because hidden water continued its silent work beneath the earth. Imagine walking through a Persian orchard nourished by a qanat. Rows of pomegranate, fig, and almond trees provide cool shade. The ground beneath them is unexpectedly green. A narrow channel carries clear water gently between the roots. The leaves shimmer softly in the afternoon light. The air smells of fruit, herbs, and fresh water. Everything feels alive, yet nothing feels hurried. The quiet engineering of ancient Persia often disappeared into the landscape itself. A visitor might notice the gardens, the cool basins, the flowing channels, and the pleasant shade without immediately understanding the hidden network beneath them. The greatest achievement was almost invisible, allowing nature and daily life to appear effortlessly harmonious. Imagine sitting beside a small irrigation channel at the edge of a garden. The water moves slowly enough that individual ripples can be watched as they pass. A dragonfly hovers briefly above the surface. The shadows of cypress branches stretch across the channel. The afternoon breeze carries the scent of warm earth and mint growing nearby. Time seems to lengthen. The mind becomes quiet. The body relaxes. In many parts of the empire, the maintenance of qanats was a communal act of care. The tunnels had to remain clear. Shafts had to be inspected. water had to continue flowing freely. This quiet maintenance helped preserve not only agriculture and settlement, but also the everyday cleanliness that depended upon reliable fresh water. Imagine workers long ago entering the cool underground passages with simple tools and calm determination. Their movements are slow. The air is cool. The sound of water accompanies every step. They do not seek glory. They seek continuity. The water must keep flowing. And because it does, gardens remain green, homes remain fresh, and the peaceful rhythm of Persian life continues. As the afternoon light becomes softer, the contrast between the warm landscape above and the cool waterways below becomes even more beautiful. The hidden tunnels remain shaded and silent while the surface world glows gently beneath the descending sun. Imagine placing your hand into the cool water emerging from a qanat. The temperature is surprisingly refreshing. The water feels clean and clear. Tiny ripples spread outward from your fingertips before becoming still once again. That coolness is the gift of the earth itself, carried patiently across great distances without haste. The story of hygiene in ancient Persia cannot be separated from these hidden waterways. Clean basins, fresh drinking water, washed linen, irrigated gardens, fragrant herbs, and cool courtyards all depended upon the quiet journey of water beneath the ground. The empire's cleanliness was supported not only by daily habits, but also by an extraordinary landscape of invisible care. Remain beside that gentle stream for a little while longer. Listen to the water moving softly from darkness into light. Feel the coolness rising from the earth. Notice the fragrance of herbs and trees nourished by its patient flow. The afternoon remains calm. The mountains remain still. And beneath the Persian landscape, the silent waterways continue their endless, peaceful journey, one gentle ripple at a time. Gardens, wells, and the quiet flow of the afternoon. The afternoon has begun to soften across the Persian Empire. The brightest heat of the day has gently passed, and a quieter warmth now rests upon gardens, orchards, courtyards, and the pale stone walls of ancient homes. The sky remains a clear Persian blue, but the sunlight has become calmer, less intense, as if the day itself has settled into a slower rhythm. Long shadows are beginning to form beneath cypress trees, and the breeze carries the fragrance of herbs, flowering shrubs, and water that has remained cool in shaded channels since morning. This is a peaceful hour. A time when the hidden waterways beneath the earth continue their silent work, while the visible world above them enjoys the comfort they quietly provide. Imagine walking slowly through a Persian garden during the late afternoon. The path beneath your feet is smooth and warm, bordered by low-flowering plants and fragrant herbs. On either side, narrow channels of clear water move gently through carefully arranged pathways. The water is remarkably cool, and its surface reflects leaves, branches, and drifting clouds that pass slowly across the sky. Nothing rushes here. The water does not hurry toward its destination. It simply continues, steady and patient, as it has for generations. The Persian garden was often designed as a place of balance. Water divided the space into harmonious sections. Trees offered shade. Flowers provided fragrance. Stone paths invited slow walking. The entire landscape seemed created to encourage calm attention rather than constant activity. Imagine standing beneath the shade of a tall cypress tree. Its dark green branches rise gracefully toward the sky. Below, a channel of water passes quietly across pale stone. The air is cooler beneath the tree, and the fragrance of mint growing near the water becomes slightly stronger as the breeze moves through the leaves. This gentle combination of shade, water, and fragrance was one of the most comforting experiences in ancient Persia. The water that nourished these gardens often arrived through qanats, the underground channels that carried fresh groundwater across great distances. By the time it reached a garden or courtyard, it had already traveled patiently beneath hills, fields, and villages, protected from the intense heat of the sun. Imagine the hidden journey continuing even now. Far beneath the earth, cool water moves silently through narrow tunnels. Above, gardens bloom. Fruit trees grow heavy with figs and pomegranates. Herbs spread their fragrance through the warm air. A basin in a quiet courtyard remains fresh and clear. The underground water never asks for attention. It simply gives life. Across the empire, wells also played an important role in daily cleanliness. Some were fed directly by groundwater, while others connected with broader water systems that had been carefully maintained for generations. Drawing water from a well was often a slow and deliberate process, one that encouraged care rather than haste. Imagine a stone well standing within a shaded courtyard. The surrounding stones have been smoothed by many years of gentle use. A rope lowers a ceramic vessel slowly into the cool darkness below. For a moment, there is only silence. Then comes the soft sound of water filling the vessel. The jar is lifted gradually, and cool droplets fall back into the well, echoing quietly before disappearing into stillness once more. The water drawn from such wells could be used for drinking, washing, cooking, cleaning vessels, watering gardens, and refreshing the air within the home. Every drop carried value, and because of that, water was often treated with remarkable respect. Imagine filling a large ceramic jar from the well. The vessel becomes pleasantly cool. It is placed in the shade where the water will remain fresh throughout the afternoon. Nearby, a small basin is filled for washing hands and face after working in the garden or returning from a dusty path. The atmosphere remains calm. The movements remain slow. Nothing is wasted. Persian homes were closely connected to the landscapes around them. Gardens extended naturally from courtyards. Water channels passed through orchards before reaching homes. Shade from trees cooled both outdoor spaces and nearby rooms. The boundaries between architecture and nature often felt gentle rather than abrupt. Imagine a courtyard where a narrow channel enters quietly from the garden. It passes beside a small basin, then continues onward beneath a low stone bridge before disappearing among fruit trees beyond the wall. The water is never completely still. It is always moving, softly enough that its sound becomes part of the silence itself. This continuous movement helped keep water fresh and pleasant. Flowing water remained cooler, cleaner, and more refreshing than stagnant pools exposed constantly to dust and sunlight. The Persian preference for channels, basins, and carefully directed streams reflected a deep understanding of both practical hygiene and peaceful beauty. Imagine sitting beside one of these channels during the quiet afternoon. The stone beside you has been warmed gently by the sun. The water remains cool. A dragonfly hovers briefly above the surface. The leaves of a fig tree move almost imperceptibly in the breeze. Every sound is soft. Every movement is slow. The gardens of ancient Persia were famous throughout the ancient world for their tranquility. Travelers described shaded avenues, flowing water, fragrant flowers, and carefully arranged trees that created a feeling of order and serenity. These gardens were not only places of beauty. They were also places of comfort, cleanliness, and gentle restoration. Imagine walking farther into the orchard. Rows of pomegranate trees cast patterned shadows across the ground. Their fruit hangs quietly among glossy leaves. Water flows gently between the roots, nourishing the trees without noise or urgency. The air smells of warm fruit, herbs, and fresh water. The afternoon feels almost timeless. Within these gardens, everyday hygiene became effortless in the most beautiful way. Clean water was always nearby. Hands could be rinsed after touching soil, fruit, or herbs. Linen could be washed and dried in fresh air. Clay vessels could be cleaned beside flowing channels. Dust could be gently removed before entering the cool interior of the home. Imagine a piece of freshly washed linen hanging between two trees. The breeze moves through the fabric softly. Sunlight filters through the leaves above, creating shifting patterns across the cloth. The scent of clean linen blends with the fragrance of mint and pomegranate blossoms. Nothing more seems necessary. As the afternoon slowly moves toward evening, the light becomes warmer. The channels of water begin reflecting golden tones. The shadows of the cypress trees lengthen across the garden paths. Birdsong becomes quieter, and the entire landscape seems to settle into an even deeper calm. Imagine returning to the stone well once more. The air is cooler now. Another vessel is lowered gently into the water. The familiar sound rises softly from below. Fresh water fills the jar. The cycle continues exactly as it has for countless days before. This quiet repetition is one of the most comforting qualities of ancient Persian life. Water is drawn. Basins are filled. Gardens are nourished. Linen is washed. Courtyards are refreshed. The hidden waterways continue their patient work beneath the earth. The visible world above them remains green, fragrant, and peaceful. The story of hygiene in ancient Persia is, in many ways, the story of this gentle continuity. Cleanliness was supported by careful engineering, thoughtful architecture, shaded gardens, cool wells, and a profound respect for fresh water. None of it required noise or spectacle. It required only patience, attention, and the quiet partnership between people and the landscape that sustained them. Remain beside the flowing channel for a little while longer. Listen to the water moving softly over stone. Feel the cooling breeze beneath the cypress trees. Notice the fragrance of herbs and fruit carried through the afternoon air. The empire remains vast. The gardens remain still. And beneath the warm earth of ancient Persia, the hidden waterways continue their silent journey, bringing freshness, life, and peace to every quiet courtyard they gently touch. Evening calm and the dust of the day. Washing away the quiet dust. The afternoon has begun its slow and graceful descent toward evening. Across the Persian Empire, the sunlight has softened into warm shades of gold and amber. The bright intensity of midday has faded, leaving behind a gentle warmth that rests upon stone terraces, quiet gardens, orchards, and shaded courtyards. Long shadows stretch across the ground, and the air has become pleasantly cooler, carrying the fragrance of herbs, fruit trees, and water that has remained fresh beneath the shade throughout the day. This is one of the most peaceful hours in ancient Persia. The work of the day has gradually slowed, and the landscape itself seems to breathe more gently. Water continues to move through narrow channels with the same patient rhythm it has maintained since morning, while cypress trees stand quietly beneath the evening sky. Birds return to the gardens, and the distant sounds of the wider world become softer, as though everything is preparing for rest. Imagine walking slowly through a Persian courtyard as the sun lowers toward the western hills. The stone beneath your feet is still warm from the day, but no longer hot. The light touches the walls with a soft golden glow, revealing gentle textures in the pale stone and clay. A basin of clear water rests quietly at the center of the courtyard, reflecting the changing colors of the sky above. The water is still. The air is calm. The day is becoming quiet. In ancient Persia, the evening often brought another opportunity for washing. Dust from garden paths, orchards, roads, and daily work could be gently rinsed away before the cooler hours of night. This was not a hurried task. It was a peaceful transition from the activity of daylight into the stillness of evening. Imagine approaching the basin slowly. A ceramic vessel rests beside it, filled with cool water that has been kept in the shade throughout the afternoon. The outside of the vessel feels pleasantly cool to the touch. A folded linen cloth lies nearby, clean and dry, carrying the faint fragrance of sunlight and fresh air. Water is poured gently into waiting hands. The first touch is wonderfully cool. The warmth of the day begins to fade from the skin. Small droplets fall onto the stone, where they briefly darken its surface before slowly disappearing. The sound is soft enough that it blends with the distant murmur of water flowing through nearby channels. Imagine rinsing your hands slowly, allowing the cool water to move across your fingers and palms. There is no need to hurry. The evening has arrived gently, and every movement can remain calm and deliberate. The face is washed with the same quiet care. Cool water refreshes the forehead, cheeks, and temples. The air feels lighter afterward. The mind feels quieter. The body begins to understand that the busiest part of the day has already passed. In the Persian climate, this evening washing was especially comforting. After hours of warm sunlight and dry air, the simple freshness of cool water brought a deep sense of relief. Dust that had settled upon the skin could be gently removed, leaving behind a feeling of cleanliness that matched the peaceful atmosphere of the approaching night. Imagine sitting beside the basin after washing. The linen cloth is soft against your hands. A breeze moves gently through the courtyard, carrying the scent of mint, cedar wood, and pomegranate leaves. The water reflects the first hints of orange and rose as the sky slowly changes color. Everything feels wonderfully unhurried. The architecture of Persian homes made the evening especially beautiful. Thick walls retained a pleasant coolness, shaded rooms became comfortable once again, and courtyards gathered the soft light of sunset. Water stored in large ceramic jars remained refreshingly cool, protected from the strongest heat of the day. Imagine entering a shaded room from the courtyard. The temperature becomes noticeably cooler. A large water jar stands quietly against the wall. Nearby, a small basin reflects the warm evening light entering through the courtyard opening. The air carries a faint fragrance of dried herbs stored on nearby shelves. Silence fills the room like a gentle presence. Across ancient Persia, evening was also a time when gardens became especially fragrant. Flowers that had remained quiet beneath the stronger afternoon sun began releasing their scent into the cooling air. Herbs seemed fresher. Fruit trees carried a subtle sweetness that became more noticeable as the temperature slowly fell. Imagine walking slowly through a garden path divided by narrow water channels. The water now reflects the golden sky. Cypress shadows stretch long across the ground. Pomegranate branches move softly in the evening breeze. The fragrance of mint and flowering shrubs drifts gently around you. Each breath feels slow. Each step feels peaceful. The Persian appreciation for cleanliness extended naturally into these evening moments. A clean courtyard, fresh water, washed hands, and cool air created an atmosphere of calm that prepared both body and mind for rest. Nothing elaborate was required. The beauty lay in the simplicity of repeated daily habits. Imagine a freshly washed linen cloth hanging quietly between two wooden posts. The last sunlight shines through the fabric. The breeze moves it almost imperceptibly. Its scent is clean and gentle, carrying traces of water, air, and warm stone. Nearby, a narrow channel continues its quiet journey toward the garden beyond the wall. The afternoon light grows softer with every passing moment. The sky becomes deeper in color. Birdsong becomes quieter. The entire landscape seems to settle. Imagine sitting beside the water channel and listening carefully. The flow is steady. Small ripples move across the surface. A leaf drifts slowly downstream. The sound is almost hypnotic in its gentleness. This is the quiet dust of the day being left behind. The roads that carried travelers. The gardens that nourished herbs and fruit. The courtyards that welcomed light and air. The stone pathways warmed by the Persian sun. All of them now belong to evening. The washing has already been completed. The basin remains still. The water jar remains cool. The linen cloth has been folded neatly. The garden continues to breathe softly beneath the lengthening shadows. In ancient Persia, evening was not only the end of work. It was the beginning of peace. A peaceful courtyard. A peaceful garden. A peaceful basin of water. A peaceful sky slowly changing from gold to blue. These quiet moments formed an essential part of everyday life, allowing cleanliness to become not merely a practical necessity, but a gentle companion to rest, reflection, and the beauty of the approaching night. Remain there for a little while longer. Feel the cool water upon your hands. Listen to the channel flowing softly through the garden. Breathe the fragrance of herbs carried by the evening breeze. The empire grows quieter with every passing moment. The sun continues its slow descent. And ancient Persia settles gently into the calm embrace of evening. Lamps, linen, and the quiet of dusk. The evening has now settled gently across ancient Persia. The sun has slipped behind the distant hills, and the bright gold of late afternoon has softened into delicate shades of amber, rose, and deep blue. The air has become cooler, carrying the faint fragrance of herbs, cedar wood, and the fresh moisture that lingers near water channels and garden basins. The heat of the day has quietly departed, leaving behind a peaceful stillness that seems to spread across the entire empire. This is the hour of dusk. The busiest moments of the day have already passed, and the world no longer asks for effort. Courtyards become places of rest. Gardens become places of quiet reflection. The gentle sounds of flowing water, rustling leaves, and distant birds are now softer than they were before, as though the landscape itself is preparing for sleep. Imagine standing in a shaded Persian courtyard as the sky slowly darkens. The stone beneath your feet still holds a little warmth from the day, but the evening breeze has begun to cool its surface. A basin of clear water rests quietly in the center of the courtyard, reflecting the first evening stars that are beginning to appear above the walls. The water is perfectly still. The air is calm. The silence feels comforting rather than empty. Nearby, a clean linen cloth has been folded carefully and placed upon a smooth stone bench. It carries the gentle fragrance of fresh water, warm sunlight, and the open air in which it dried earlier in the day. In ancient Persia, clean linen was more than a practical necessity. It was part of the quiet comfort of evening, offering freshness after the dust and warmth of daylight had faded away. Imagine lifting the linen cloth slowly. It is light and soft. The fabric feels cool in the evening air. A faint scent of cedar wood lingers within its folds, gathered from the wooden chest in which it was stored. Everything about it suggests order, care, and calm. As darkness gradually approaches, small oil lamps begin to appear within Persian homes and courtyards. Their light is gentle and warm, never harsh or bright. A single flame can illuminate a quiet room, a shaded passage, or a corner of the courtyard where the evening breeze moves softly through the trees. Imagine a small clay lamp resting beside the basin. Its flame flickers gently, reflected upon the still water below. The reflection trembles with each faint movement of air, creating soft patterns of light across the surrounding stone. The atmosphere becomes even more peaceful. In the Persian world, evening did not arrive suddenly. It unfolded slowly. The sky deepened from gold to violet. Violet to blue. Blue to a dark velvet filled with stars. Each stage of twilight brought a different quality of quietness. Imagine sitting beside the basin as the light continues to fade. The cypress trees become dark silhouettes against the sky. The fragrance of mint and flowering shrubs grows slightly stronger in the cool air. A night bird calls once in the distance before silence returns. The water continues to reflect the changing heavens with perfect calm. The rituals of cleanliness also became gentler in the evening. Hands might be washed once more before the final meal of the day. Dust gathered from sandals and garden paths could be rinsed away. The face might be refreshed with cool water after hours of warm sunlight. These simple acts required very little, yet they created a feeling of completion, as though the day had been carefully folded away before night began. Imagine pouring cool water slowly over your hands. The temperature is wonderfully refreshing. The sound is soft and familiar. Droplets fall quietly into the basin. A linen cloth waits nearby, dry and clean. The entire movement feels peaceful, almost like a form of evening meditation. Throughout ancient Persia, homes were designed to become especially comfortable after sunset. Thick walls released the heat they had stored during the day, while open courtyards allowed cool air to circulate freely beneath the stars. Water stored in large ceramic jars remained pleasantly cool, and shaded gardens became wonderfully inviting places during the evening hours. Imagine entering a cool interior room lit only by a single oil lamp. The walls glow softly in the warm light. Clay vessels rest neatly upon shelves. Folded textiles are arranged with quiet care. A faint fragrance of herbs and cedar fills the still air. Outside, the courtyard remains visible through the open doorway, where the basin reflects the first bright stars of the Persian night. Everything feels sheltered. Everything feels serene. The Persian appreciation for order extended naturally into these evening moments. A swept courtyard, a clean basin, fresh linen, and a quietly burning lamp created an atmosphere that encouraged rest rather than activity. Nothing needed to be perfect. It only needed to be cared for gently. Imagine walking once more through the garden. The water channels now appear dark beneath the sky. Moonlight has begun to touch their surfaces. The leaves of pomegranate and fig trees move softly in the cool breeze. The fragrance of flowers drifts gently through the night air. The garden has become quieter than it was during the day, yet somehow even more beautiful. The hidden qanats beneath the earth continue their patient work, carrying cool water silently through the darkness just as they did beneath the bright afternoon sun. The wells remain still. The basins remain clear. The gardens remain nourished. The quiet infrastructure of ancient Persia never truly sleeps, it simply continues its gentle rhythm beneath the stars. Imagine placing your hand near the surface of the basin. The water is cool. The night air is even cooler. A small ripple spreads outward before the surface becomes calm once again. The reflection of the stars returns, undisturbed. This is the peaceful ending of an ordinary day in ancient Persia. No great event marks its conclusion. No dramatic sound announces the arrival of night. Only lamps, linen, water, cool air, and silence. These simple companions were enough. They allowed the body to feel clean. They allowed the home to feel fresh. They allowed the mind to become quiet before sleep. As the night grows deeper, the courtyard becomes increasingly still. The lamp burns steadily. The breeze becomes gentler. The scent of cedar and herbs lingers softly in the air. Somewhere beyond the walls, water continues its slow journey through channels and underground tunnels, connecting gardens, homes, and distant landscapes with the same patient movement that has continued for centuries. Remain in this quiet courtyard for a little while longer. Watch the lamp reflected in the still water. Feel the cool evening air upon your skin. Breathe the fragrance of clean linen, cedar wood, and flowering herbs. Listen to the faint sound of water moving through the darkness. The empire has become silent. The gardens are resting. The stars shine clearly above the stone walls. And ancient Persia settles gently into the peaceful embrace of night, where cleanliness, order, and quiet beauty remain together beneath the calm and endless sky. nightfall and the quiet fragrance of Persia. The stillness before sleep. Night has now fully arrived across the Persian Empire. The last traces of evening have faded from the western horizon, and a deep blue darkness has gently settled over mountains, gardens, villages, orchards, and the great stone terraces of Persepolis. The air is cool and wonderfully calm, carrying the faint fragrance of cedar wood, dry earth, flowering herbs, and water that continues to move quietly through hidden channels beneath the stars. This is the hour when ancient Persia becomes almost completely still. The heat of the day has disappeared into the stone, and the courtyards that were bright with morning sunlight now rest beneath moonlight and shadow. The narrow water channels reflect small fragments of the night sky, and the cypress trees stand as dark silhouettes against a field of countless stars. Imagine standing quietly within a Persian courtyard at this late hour. The walls around you are pale beneath the moonlight. A basin of clear water rests at the center, perfectly still, reflecting the stars above with remarkable clarity. A small oil lamp burns softly near a doorway, its warm flame creating a gentle circle of light upon the stone. Nothing moves except the occasional breeze that passes through the cypress branches. The empire feels vast, yet deeply peaceful. After the quiet washing of the evening and the cooling of the air, night became a time of simplicity. The body had already been refreshed with clean water. Fresh linen had been folded and prepared. Clay vessels had been rinsed and placed carefully in their proper places. The courtyard had been swept, the garden watered, and the lamps lit with calm and deliberate hands. The day had gradually been brought into order. Imagine a folded linen cloth resting beside the basin. It is cool from the night air. Its fibers still carry the faint fragrance of sunlight from earlier in the day, now softened by the scent of cedar and herbs drifting through the courtyard. Nearby, a large ceramic water jar stands quietly against the wall, its contents remaining cool because of the thick clay and the evening shade. Everything feels prepared. Everything feels settled. In ancient Persia, the transition from day to night was often gentle rather than abrupt. There was no sudden flood of bright light, no constant noise, no restless movement that continued endlessly into darkness. Instead, the world gradually became quieter. Conversation softened. Footsteps became fewer. Birds fell silent. The stars appeared one by one until the sky seemed almost luminous. Imagine looking upward. The stars are astonishingly bright. Without the glow of modern cities, the heavens stretch across the entire sky in endless detail. The Milky Way forms a pale river of light above the dark cypress trees. The basin below reflects those stars so clearly that it becomes difficult to tell where the sky ends and the water begins. Water remains the quiet companion of the night. The hidden qanats beneath the earth continue carrying cool groundwater across the landscape. The channels in the gardens continue their gentle movement. The basins remain fresh. The wells remain silent. Nothing has stopped. Everything has simply become quieter. Imagine walking slowly through a Persian garden beneath the moonlight. The stone path is cool beneath your feet. The water channels shimmer with silver reflections. Pomegranate trees cast delicate shadows across the ground. The fragrance of herbs becomes more noticeable in the cool air, while flowering plants release a sweetness that was hidden during the warmer hours of the day. The garden feels almost dreamlike. The Persian appreciation for fragrance reached a special quietness at night. During the day, scents blended with sunlight, dust, and activity. But after dark, the cooler air allowed fragrances to linger gently around courtyards and gardens. Cedar wood, dried herbs, rose, myrrh, and other aromatic plants seemed softer and more delicate beneath the stars. Imagine a small ceramic vessel containing a few drops of fragrant oil. Its scent is faint but unmistakable. It mingles with the cool air, the smell of clean linen, and the freshness of water nearby. the fragrance is not strong enough to demand attention. It simply becomes part of the peaceful atmosphere. The architecture of Persian homes was especially comforting at night. Thick walls protected interiors from both daytime heat and nighttime winds. Courtyards opened toward the sky, allowing cool air to circulate gently through surrounding rooms. Water stored in ceramic jars remained refreshing even after many hours, and shaded stone surfaces gradually released the warmth they had gathered during the day. Imagine entering a quiet room from the moonlit courtyard. The air is cool and still. A single oil lamp burns softly. Clay vessels, woven baskets, and folded textiles rest neatly along the walls. The room smells faintly of cedar, fresh linen, and dry herbs stored carefully in woven bundles. Silence fills the space completely. Across the empire, countless homes are now resting in similar quietness. Gardens breathe softly beneath the stars. Water moves invisibly beneath the earth. The mountains stand motionless in the distance. The sky remains clear and endless. Imagine sitting beside the basin once more. The water is perfectly calm. The lamp flame reflects gently upon its surface. A light breeze creates a single ripple that slowly travels across the basin before disappearing. The stillness returns immediately. This is the peaceful end of the day. Not marked by ceremony. Not marked by noise. Only by cool air, clean water, fresh linen, fragrant herbs, and the quiet confidence that everything needed has already been gently cared for. The story of hygiene in ancient Persia is ultimately a story of calm attention. Water was respected. Homes were kept orderly. Gardens were tended patiently. Clothing was washed carefully. Fragrance came from nature rather than excess. Cleanliness was not pursued with anxiety, but with quiet consistency, becoming part of the natural rhythm of life itself. Imagine the entire Persian landscape beneath the night sky. Persepolis rests among the hills. Villages lie quietly beside orchards. Gardens shimmer faintly in the moonlight. Hidden qanats continue carrying water beneath the earth. Stars fill the heavens above them all. Everything is connected by silence, water, and the gentle order that has guided the empire through another peaceful day. Remain there for a little while longer. Listen to the faint sound of water moving through the darkness. Feel the cool night air upon your skin. Breathe the fragrance of cedar, herbs, and clean linen. Watch the stars reflected in the still basin before you. The empire has fallen asleep. The gardens are resting. The water continues its quiet journey. And ancient Persia remains suspended in a moment of perfect tranquility beneath the endless and peaceful night sky. The last basin of water. The night has become wonderfully deep. Across the Persian Empire, the mountains are dark silhouettes against a sky filled with countless stars. The gardens are quiet, the courtyards are still, and the narrow channels of water continue their patient movement through stone and earth. The warmth of the day has completely faded, leaving behind cool air that carries the faint fragrance of cedar wood, dried herbs, flowering plants, and clean water resting peacefully in shaded basins. This is the final quiet hour before sleep settles over the entire landscape. Imagine standing once more within a Persian courtyard. The walls around you glow softly beneath the moonlight, and the center basin reflects the stars with remarkable clarity. A single oil lamp burns gently near a doorway, its small flame moving only when the light breeze passes through the cypress branches above. Nothing asks for your attention now. The work of the day is complete. The washing has been done. The linen has been folded. The water jars are full. The garden has been watered. The stone paths have been swept. Everything has been gently returned to order. In ancient Persia, this quiet completion was one of the most comforting parts of daily life. the day did not end in haste. It gradually softened into silence, allowing both the home and the mind to become calm before sleep. Cleanliness was part of that transition, not through grand rituals, but through simple and familiar habits repeated with patience over many generations. Imagine approaching the basin slowly. The water is cool from the night air. Its surface is perfectly still, reflecting the moon and stars above with almost impossible clarity. A ceramic vessel rests beside it, filled with fresh water drawn earlier in the evening. The vessel feels cool beneath your hand. A small amount of water is poured gently into the basin. The sound is soft and hollow. Tiny ripples spread across the surface, carrying the reflected stars outward in slow circles before the water becomes still once more. This final basin of water is not simply for washing. It is a symbol of everything the day has quietly offered. Freshness, order, calm, patience. Imagine rinsing your hands one last time before rest. The water is wonderfully cool. The warmth of the day disappears completely. A clean linen cloth waits nearby, carrying the gentle fragrance of sunlight, cedar, and open air. The movement is slow, deliberate, peaceful. Throughout the Persian Empire, similar moments unfold beneath the same night sky. In small villages, quiet orchards, mountain settlements, and the great ceremonial city of Persepolis, water continues to connect homes, gardens, and people with the landscape around them. Hidden qanats carry cool groundwater silently beneath the earth, while wells, basins, and channels remain fresh beneath the moonlight. Imagine the underground waterways continuing their endless journey. Far below the surface, cool water moves through carefully carved tunnels. Above, the stars remain bright. Cypress trees stand motionless. Gardens rest beneath silver light. The water never hurries. It never becomes impatient. It simply continues, quietly and faithfully, as it has for centuries. This patient movement of water shaped not only Persian agriculture and architecture, but also Persian cleanliness. Homes remained fresh because water was nearby. Gardens flourished because water arrived gently and continuously. Linen could be washed. Basins could be filled. Hands and faces could be refreshed. Dust could be quietly removed at the beginning and end of every day. Imagine a folded linen cloth resting beside a cedar chest. The wood releases a faint resinous fragrance that has slowly settled into the fabric. The cloth feels cool and smooth. It has been prepared for tomorrow morning, when another peaceful day will begin. The Persian understanding of hygiene was never only about removing dust. It was also about creating an atmosphere. A clean courtyard. A fresh basin. A cool room. A shaded garden. A gentle fragrance. A quiet evening. Together, these simple elements created a feeling of harmony that surrounded everyday life. Imagine walking slowly through the garden one final time. The water channels shimmer beneath the moonlight. Pomegranate branches cast delicate shadows across the path. The scent of herbs is soft and clear in the cool night air. A night bird calls briefly in the distance before silence returns once again. The garden feels timeless. The stars above seem endless. The architecture of Persian homes now becomes almost invisible in the darkness. The walls, pathways, and terraces remain present, but they no longer draw attention. Instead, what remains most noticeable is the quiet itself, along with the gentle sound of water that has accompanied every chapter of this journey. Imagine sitting beside the basin. The lamp flame burns steadily. The reflection of the stars remains undisturbed. A light breeze touches the surface of the water, creating one small ripple that slowly fades into perfect stillness. There is nowhere else to be. Nothing else needs to be done. The empire is resting. The gardens are resting. The mountains are resting. Even the water seems to move more quietly beneath the night sky. This final moment gathers together everything that has come before. The cool dawn courtyards. The morning washing. The shaded basins. The fragrant herbs. The clean linen. The hidden qanats. The peaceful gardens. The evening lamps. The quiet rituals of water and stone. All of them have led gently to this still and silent hour beneath the stars. Imagine the entire Persian landscape from above. Persepolis lies quiet among the hills. Villages rest beside orchards and fields. Gardens are divided by silver channels of water. The underground waterways continue their patient journey across the land. The night sky stretches endlessly overhead, filled with stars reflected in countless small basins and pools throughout the empire. The story of hygiene in ancient Persia ends where it began, with water. Cool water. Clear water. Respected water. Water that washed the hands, refreshed the face, cooled the courtyard, nourished the garden, softened the linen, and reflected the stars. In its quiet presence, ancient Persia found cleanliness, comfort, beauty, and peace. Remain beside the last basin of water for a little while longer. Listen to the faint sound of distant flowing channels. Feel the cool night air upon your skin. Breathe the fragrance of cedar, herbs, and fresh linen. Watch the stars resting upon the still water before you. The empire has become silent. The gardens sleep beneath the moon. The hidden waterways continue their endless journey through the earth. And ancient Persia fades gently into the quiet embrace of the night, leaving behind only cool water, soft fragrance, and the deep peacefulness of a world that moved slowly enough to hear every gentle ripple in the dark.